Mitch McConnell is a turtle. Look at how cute this is. This is absolutely adorable. CNN Politics, Mitch McConnell at rehab facility. A McConnell aide said the length of the GOP leader's stay at a rehab facility depends on his progress. Turtle Hospital, Sea Turtle Center. Therapist checking cranium. Surgery to repair cranial fracture and multiple contusions. McConnell leaving rehab. Birth of Senator McConnell's love child revealed. How fucking adorable is that? I mean, yeah, Mitch McConnell looks like a turtle, and people are going to have a problem with all of this crap mocking Mitch McConnell looking like a turtle, but you really can't get mad at it, and it helps to ensure you don't get too mad at him because he is being compared to a little sea turtle. That's like if somebody wanted to make fun of me and compared me to a Care Bear. And then there were all these cute little Care Bear memes and Care Bear jokes and Care Bear drawings. I couldn't get mad at that because it's so cute. Oh my God. President Biden said to customers of SVB and Signature Bank on Monday that their money was safe, insured by the Deposit Insurance Fund. But investors in the banks will not be protected. They knowingly took a risk, and when the risk didn't pay off, the investors lose their money. That's how capitalism works. This is the way. And here we go. Actors tell stories about what it's like to work with Steven Seagal. The South Park and the Family Guy animations. This is awesome. Action movie reviews, news, and criticism.
Oh, worst host.
Oh, I love Al Franken. Now, a lot of these are off of interviews. Most of them are off of Howard Stern, but there are other ones. And a lot of these early interviews are from cast members of SNL during my period, the time where I was a really big SNL fan, late 80s to early 90s. Back where the cast members consisted of Al Franken, who would appear periodically on SNL, and he was hilarious. Dana Carvey, Mike Myers, Adam Sandler, who else? Chris Farley, Kevin Nealon, Victoria Jackson. I must have watched every SNL episode back then. Yep, and that was when most of these interviews took place, because that is when Steven Seagal was the celebrity host. So they have a lot of shit to say about him.
By lapped every bad host.
This is somebody that you've been there. You did 15 seasons.
15 seasons.
You've seen hundreds of hosts.
Yes.
And lapped people as the worst.
First of all, everything you say in your
bit,
great bit about him is absolutely fucking true. Everything, he's always just bragging on something that he did that he didn't do. And is just the most awful person. Okay, now I'll give you. Okay, here's an example. So we do read through. We do read through on Wednesdays, and after read through, Lauren sits with the host, and I was a producer too, so I sat in the room with him. And so it was me, Lauren, and Seagal. And Seagal's an idiot, in addition to everything else, and has no sense of humor in addition to everything else.
Christ.
Great fit for the show.
And so he goes,
No
he
sense of humor.
literally does this. He says, I have an idea for a sketch.
Oh, dear.
Okay. Okay, so I'm a psychiatrist, and that's Victoria Jackson, comes in, and I'm her psychiatrist, and I hypnotize her, and I have sex with her, and then at the end I tell her she's got to come back every week. So,
Dude, that's a great sketch.
yes, isn't that great?
Yeah, it is.
I'm looking at Lauren is going like, and I'm going like, Lauren has to maintain a relationship with the host. So Lauren's looking at me, and I go, and this is what I say. I say, so you want us to do the ugliest sketch that's ever been on television?
Oh my God.
And he says to me, you don't like any of my ideas. Okay, fine. I took it for Lauren. Needless to say, we didn't do that piece.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, it was Hans and Franz.
Right.
And we were talking to him about I was helping with Hans and Franz that week.
Oh, Hans and Franz. If you don't remember the Hans and Franz skit, that was the skit. It was mostly, I think it was Kevin Nealon and Dana Carvey. And they would wear these, they're supposed to be these knuckle-headed weightlifter muscle men. And they pulled it off by wearing sweatsuits with the bodybuilders. They pulled it off by wearing sweatsuits with tissue stuffed in them to look like muscles, and they were German. And that's all they did was make fun of people from not being pumped up enough. And, they oftentimes had the host acting as a guest on their Hans and Franz weightlifting show. And, of course, they had to do a Hans and Franz. That skit was approved for when Steven Seagal was hosting. The whole freaking show itself was a disaster, but
Yeah, I didn't usually help with that piece, but I love those guys. And Seagal read it, and he said, "If I do this sketch, if I do it," and they want to fight him. Hey, we'll take you on. He goes, "If I do it, I have to beat them up.
if I do Hans and Franz, I have to kick their asses." Sounds like Seagal to me.
Like he has to. It's like a John Wayne thing, right? Like
Right.
Like
He's
it's
gotta
the
win.
most ludicrous scenario. You don't worry. No one will think that they actually. No one's thinking anyone beat anyone up here. But that was his attitude the whole week. Was he kept saying, "I've never seen your show. I don't know what you do here." Like, really? You've never seen Saturday Night Live? Where do you live?
Even if he's never seen Saturday Night Live, at the very least, you have to be familiar with the concept behind sketch comedy, or be familiar with the concept of comedy. It's a sketch comedy show. Forget about the cast that's on it and the fact that it's Saturday Night Live. It's sketch comedy. It's made up skits, and he didn't get it.
And he wrote a scene, Howard. He wrote a scene, and it's the last scene in the show, and it's like one of his movies, but they tried to do it live. They got some stuntmen to come in. It's insane. So there's like this board of directors. There's a bunch of stuntmen in suits. So as a viewer, you're like, who are these actors? They're not in the cast, and then there's like some speech, and then he enters the.
I remember that skit. You know, it's just like with all of his movies. He can never get hurt. He can never die. He can never lose a fight. And it's not just happenstance that a fight occurs and he can never get really hurt and he can never lose a fight. He purposely wants to put that into everything he does, where there's fight after fight after problem between his character and random other characters, so that a fight can happen so that he can kick everybody's asses. And in recent years, he wants to do this shit without getting up from his chair. And I remember that skit on SNL where he brought in his own stuntmen just so he could have a skit that plays out like a scene from one of his movies, where he just kicks everybody's ass for no reason.
Banquet room and starts beating. It's live, and he's beating them up and throwing them around the room, and it goes on for like 8 minutes. It's the longest scene you've ever seen. And then at the very end, he turns the camera and says,
"This is what happens when you pollute the planet."
And the audience is mystified.
Just like in the movie.
Just like in the movie. Ooh, Dana Carvey.
How is it that if you go online and you try to find the Steven Seagal hosting of Saturday
It's not
Night
on
Live,
there?
It is not on there. We couldn't find it anywhere because I have looked for it. What happened with the Hans and Franz sketch?
When he came in, we wrote it. We did it at read-through. And all of it was them making fun of Steven. Like,
Right.
Arnold is stronger than you. He could flick you with your little baby finger and you would fly across the room and land in your own baby poop. You know, it's all this stuff.
Yeah.
Your little spindly arms. And so your buttocks are like marshmallows. You're lucky we don't have a campfire here. And he's just reading his lines and not really reacting to it.
Right.
Then it gets on the show. It's picked. Then on Thursday, we're just on the soundstage rehearsing it. And we go through it with the cue cards. He reads his lines, very serious. Then he just walks off. He's like 50 feet away in the 8H, the studio. No one's around. I go, we got to start again. Kevin, I'll go see what's going on. So I went up to him. I said, "Steven, are you okay?" And he just didn't look at me. He's looking straight forward. He goes, quote, and this is a quote, "I just wish Arnold was here so I could kick his ass."
Oh, my God. He got all pissed off. He got all pissed off in the middle of rehearsing the Hans and Franz bit, because one thing about the Hans and Franz characters, and this is, if you've probably never seen the skit, this was decades ago, but Hans and Franz obviously are huge fans of Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's their whole thing. They, just like Dana Carvey did, they're German or Austrian, and they speak with the accents, and that's their idol is Arnold. And so everybody gets made fun of for not being pumped up like they are, and everything is compared to Arnold Schwarzenegger. That is the bit. That is what the characters do. Oh, my God, I didn't even know this about Seagal. I never heard most of these interviews. He walks off the rehearsal, and when asked what's wrong, he legit just says, "I wish Arnold were here so I can kick his ass." Like he could kick Arnold's ass. He's jealous over Hans and Franz made up characters talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So So what does that mean? He didn't understand the sketch?
Well, I told him, I said, they're idiots.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're weaker than Arnold. These guys just worship Arnold. So we rewrote it. I don't know if he ever saw it. Maybe.
You mean you couldn't explain to him that in the sketch you guys love Arnold Schwarzenegger, so he couldn't make fun of himself?
So we did the sketch different so that there's only one person stronger than Arnold, and that's Steven Seagal.
But it doesn't work.
I know. Well, 6 months later, I run into Arnold.
Oh, my God. I think I vaguely remember that, too. That was the only time Hans and Franz ever mentioned somebody else as being as cool as their idol, Arnie. And that's because Seagal got pissed that they didn't worship him. They had to change everything about the skit to kiss his ass. I wish I could go back and watch that show again, because I was, 10 or 11 when that show came out? I vaguely remember it.
At a restaurant in Santa Monica. He's got his whole gang with him.
Right, he travels with an entourage.
He's got a foot-long cigar.
Ooh, he saw Arnie.
He's leaning back. I go, Arnold, Steven Seagal's on the show. He said, kick your fucking ass. I told him the whole story.
Yeah.
And Arnold just leans back and goes, is that the fact?
You could have started World War III with those two guys.
Arnold's too smart. He owns 747s. And, what are we going to do? Be like,
hell yeah. And that is what made Hans and Franz even funnier, although people may not have known it back then like they know it now. But Arnold is a family guy, and he's got kids, and he owns planes, and he became the governor. He just, up and left Hollywood for years so he could get into politics and all this shit. And even he's way smarter than that. He doesn't give a shit what Steven Seagal has to say.
in 5th grade and try to wrestle.
David Spade.
Were you there for Steven Seagal?
Yes.
You were?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, for those who don't know, he is widely and unanimously, that's the same thing, right? Widely and unanimously considered the worst host in the history of SNL. And I hope he's not around to kick my ass. I think he's in Russia, so it's all good.
I have to defend him a little bit.
He's fucking there with Robert Kraft's Super Bowl ring.
I think maybe his 1-inch ponytail was too tight that night because...
Wait, you're defending him?
A little bit.
Why?
Only because he was...
You liked his ideas.
He was friendly enough to me. The only thing he did, which was he tightened up, which is a lot of hosts do. I don't know if you did it. I didn't do it. I threw up, but I didn't tighten up as far as you have to sort of trust these 30 people you don't know. You have to walk in and say...
100%.
A lot of people think we're there to make fun of them. And we're saying we respect you. If we're getting you on the show to host, we all want it to work.
Yep.
And if you make fun of yourself, this is where it gets tricky. If you make fun of yourself, it will benefit you, and we promise you. And if you don't...
That's the whole point with sketch comedy and having a host on. They're your special guest. That's what sketch comedy is all about. I can't believe... Yes, I know Jeet Kune Do was by Bruce Lee. Aikido is what Seagal supposedly was a master in. But I can't believe David Spade has to explain this shit. Sketch comedy, I mean, I'm sure it's very hard work, to script sketches and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's comedy. It's about everything all in good fun. You have a special guest host on your show. Yeah, you do have to trust this cast of people, but they're all there to work together to make a great show, to make it really funny and entertaining for viewers at home. And that's the exact point where you as the guest host are supposed to let loose and not take things seriously and make for good skits and make fun of yourself. It's definitely not a cast of people that have you on to make fun of you. Like it's Carrie at the prom or something. It's SNL. It's sketch comedy, but maybe that's what he's trying to get at, is that Steven Seagal was the only guest host in history that just didn't seem to get that.
And you fight it so much, and that was him. He was too cool and had his image. And, you know, like Stallone would come on, you know, whoever would come on and just, they make fun of Rock. And, you know, that's the way to do it. Yeah. And then people go, oh, you're a human. You play so cool, but you can at least goof around and it's more relatable. He wouldn't do kung fu fighting as a cold open or a monologue. And it was like everybody was but we had it something funny, then he throws in little kicks, you know.
It would have been amazing.
It was amazing.
It would have been amazing.
Because, and then I think we walk up and get kicked.
God, that would have been amazing. You know, the guy is like so up his own ass. He wouldn't do that funny shit on SNL that they had planned for him in the opening, and then he like doesn't get why people don't like him, and that would have blown his career even more wide open.
And fall down. And so he says he'll do it, but he just talks it. It's still kind of funny, but he won't play it all. And then the other sketches he was fighting. A lot of people, you have to go through their people.
Did you ever see any of Steven Seagal when he was very young?
Mm-hmm.
When he was teaching in Japan?
I was totally fast. I mean, it's like, and it's really...
It's weird,
like,
right?
Like me, right? Like, like serious actor, thoughtful actor. I'm like, what did you know... But I, like, Above the Law, because I was into all that stuff when Above the Law came out, and there was the scene in Above the Law, and he's in an Aikido, you know, gi with the black thing, and he's doing this thing, and I was like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like, when have you ever seen this in a movie?
Yeah.
And he was a big guy,
and he made it violent.
Yeah,
it's very unusual sort of contribution to martial arts, because in martial arts movies, he made it realistic. Yeah, like it was one of the most realistic martial arts movies ever.
Yeah, it was, and you know, when you look back on it, there's things about it that don't date super well.
Yeah, of course, but he was undeniably
literally what you just
skillful.
showed, the thing of the guy coming, it's that simple thing, that thrust and the break and the thing. It's He also, in the film, when the guys come at him, this shows you how it burns your brain. There's a scene where there's in a bodega, and the guy, I think he smashes a bottle, and he comes at him, and he does like a move in Aikido. It's called like kotagaishi. It's like it's like the wrist, you know, it's like the wrist break, flip over.
Everything he
and
does
it was just
is
like,
the
oh my
wrist
God,
break.
like he's doing like, you know, nuanced Aikido moves in a big action movie. It was kind of cool.
Well, he was one of the first, I think, the first Westerner to run a dojo in Japan. I mean,
of course, a Joe Rogan interview is going to be in on this. Steven Seagal went to Japan and married a woman whose father owned a dojo.
He learned some things, and then he took over the dojo. He actually had a kid with this woman, and then after a few years, he dipped the fuck out on them. Left his wife, abandoned his kid to come back to the United States so that he could open his own dojo or state that he was the first Westerner in Japan to have a dojo. And that's when they came up to him about movies. And the 80s into the early to mid 90s, that's when all action movies were super violent, and all of them were rated R. And Seagal fit in quite well. And even then, he peaked with the first Under Siege movie. And then it was like downhill quickly from there. Freddie Prinze Jr.
To know Gene is to know he's been a stuntman in Hollywood since before I was born, and I'm 46, okay? So he's always the old redhead guy that gets beat up and somehow can still take a big-time bump at 137 years old.
That's like Mr. Briscoe.
Thanks, John.
So he has a stopwatch to make sure that his guys, when they're doing their fight choreography, are in time for what the director's needs are. He always wears it around his neck. He did it on every movie that he did this on. And Steven was going way too hard. Oh, I'll tell you a great Seagal story for this too. Steven was going way too hard on all of Gene's guys and not pulling his punches and just straight up wailing on him and saying, I want it to look real. And Gene had a confrontation with him. And he said, it's the director's job to make it look real. That's why he put the camera here, and that's why he puts the camera here. It's my guy's job to make you look great, and it's your job to protect my goddamn men. And Steven didn't like that. And so he had a problem. Gene went back to the director. They did the take again. Steven didn't pull any punches. And Gene takes off his stopwatch that he times the fight thing for. He puts it around the neck of his assistant, and he says, keep this. When I get back, I'm going to be fired. And he walks up to Steven, front chokes him, yanks him in, rips him up like this, and Steven pissed his pants and dropped to the ground. And Gene comes home pissed. I'm in his condo with his wife and my godfather, okay? And he had Playboy TV back in the 80s on a satellite, and I would sneak in and watch it from time to time. I loved going to Uncle Gene's house. And so he comes in and he's pissed. I mean, he comes in, the door swings open, blam, blam, and I hear him tell the whole story, cussing like a sailor to Bob. I think Pat Johnson was there, who was another old school martial arts badass.
That is not the first time I've heard of people like stuntmen and yeah, I think that's Freddie Prinze Jr. I think it's Jr. But that's not the first time I have heard of stuntmen or other actors or other fighters getting so pissed off with Seagal's shit that they actually come back at him full force and he has shit himself or pissed himself. Now, what Prince is saying here is that on one of the movies, there are these veteran stuntmen, and they specifically told Seagal he's not really supposed to cause damage. He's supposed to pull punches and stuff like that. Because this isn't a real life or death situation. Yeah, these guys are stuntmen, but we want to minimize damage as much as possible. We want everybody to be safe. And Seagal wasn't doing that. Because according to Seagal, he doesn't do shit like that. Because he's the high and mighty Seagal, of course. And the one stuntman gave his stopwatch to another guy and said, by the end of the day, I'm going to be fired. And went right over to Seagal and put him in a headlock, and Seagal pissed himself. I would totally believe it because I heard of him having shit himself once when somebody else got pissed and put him in some headlock or whatever.
Burleson was there. A whole gang of just old school killers. And all these guys called Steven out on the cover of Black Belt magazine and said, we think you're bullshit. We all want to fight you. And it was all because of this Under Siege incident. And he said, well, I only fight to the death. And all of them, Gene first said, okay. And he never fought one of them. He didn't want any of those guys.
This was on Under Siege, like at the peak of his popularity. He pulled this shit and he pissed himself on the set of Under fucking Siege.
Guys were stone killers.
Next year, 2001, you were in Exit Wounds with Steven Seagal and DMX. Yeah. What was DMX like on the set? Because I've always heard different.
Was
Michael Jai White in Exit Wounds?
DMX
To the
was
point
like.
where I would remind him, like, I'm supposed to like you. I'm your partner. I'm supposed to like you. You talk about my mom, and that's where, brother, like, dude.
Oh, I love John Leguizamo.
I'm assuming there's a celebrity rule, like what happens on the set stays on the set. Why do you want to? Why do you engage in this tell-all about some of those people?
Well, I mean, I'm not doing it just to be a gossip, just to do that kind of thing. I mean, I'm hoping that it all adds up and there's a point to it, and that I'm also guilty of some of these conflicts. Because you're an artist. I mean, or you picture yourself as being an artist, and you want to go out there and do your best work, and there's going to be conflicts. Some people don't want to play by your rules, and you don't want to play by theirs, but you're still trying to do great work, and there's going to be fights, And then you're emotional because you're an actor, so you're already in an emotional state, so.
Well, you're obviously not worried about getting beaten up because you take shots at Seagal, and he's a big guy.
Oh, he said he's gonna hit. He said he's gonna punch me. I heard. He told yeah. Right. He told his publicist, and his publicist told my publicist that he wants to punch me out.
But
he can't because he's gonna be in jail soon, so I'll be fine.
He is.
Seagal threatened.
Well, that's what I heard. I better stop talking about it.
I got cease and desist letters.
I thought he was being put away for a little while.
Publicist is freaking out now. Joanne Sennington's freaking out over it.
Is that?
No, I don't know.
She's fogging up the glass. Back away from the glass.
So, is there anyone you won't talk about because you worry about repercussions? I mean, I guess the one.
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, I don't want to hurt people's feelings just for the sake of hurting their feelings.
We've done that, yeah.
We're rehearsing.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
Yeah, but we don't need to call him names, right?
Yeah,
why not?
Shoved him against
You're looking
the
at me
wall.
like I'm crazy.
And executive
all right.
decision.
It is my first time. Under Siege 2. That's Steven Seagal and Eric Bogosian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good times. What do you think Steven said in that moment?
Oh, I can't even. I would love to know what Steven said.
I would love to know, too. I have no recollection.
Did he say? Is there anything he said during the shooting that sticks out for you, Seagal-wise? He seems very quotable.
Yeah, probably. Well, my favorite was at the last day of filming, and again, I had just turned 16 on this movie, and he said, Katie, I've got girlfriends your age, and I said, isn't that illegal? And he said, they don't seem to mind, and I said, Mom! I'm not making that up. Steven, I love you. I hope you're well.
Oh, God, I've heard of this. That he'll just and he won't even do it himself. He'll have his agent or his publicist say something to actresses, especially on his newer movies, like he's some big legend and they have to prove themselves to him by sleeping with him during auditions and shit like that. But this is when Katherine Heigl was a minor. She was the little girl on the train in Under Siege 2. And he actually said that to her. I have girlfriends your age. Have girlfriends, like plural. And this is why pedophilia is illegal. I could just imagine all the STDs he's given to girls before they're even adults. That's sick.
Your dream to work with Steven Seagal? Is that on your bucket list?
I know who dyed his hair. Stevie Wonder.
That's all now. He exclusively works with celebrity Steve, so yeah, it was probably Stevie Wonder.
No, I was particularly annoyed. Some journalist told me in a junket, that was about 3-4 years ago, I was promoting one of the Tekken movies.
Right.
That Steven Seagal. This journalist suddenly said, "Hey, what do you think of Steven Seagal saying you don't know how to punch?" I was like, what?
Yeah, because you're a boxer.
Well, I boxed as a kid, but
yeah.
I know how to punch.
Right. Did he really say that about
Apparently
you?
He did.
Oh, boy. And boy, is he regretting that right now in that Halloween costume he's wearing in Russia.
Has he really moved to Russia?
Yeah, he moved to Russia. I don't know if he moved there or we sent him there and told him not to come back, but he seems to be in Russia for whatever reason. It's a weird thing, and certain celebrities, especially ones like Dennis Rodman who dye their hair, go to these countries that aren't necessarily our friends, and oftentimes they don't come back. Maybe he's in trouble. Maybe you could go punch
love
Vladimir
him or hate
Putin
him,
over there.
This Rob Schneider story is hilarious.
Everything that we've ever heard on this show. You know what I'm going to say?
Which one's that?
When Rob was the one, I believe, maybe I got it wrong, you were the one who told me the Steven Seagal story.
I got a new one for you.
You got a new one?
Oh, that he wrote the greatest screenplay.
Wait, but tell that. Wait. Just for anyone who's never heard that, tell the first story.
Okay, there's a writer that I know, and I won't mention his name, but he was meeting Steven Seagal for the rewrite for the writing potentially for Under Siege 2.
Right.
And that was the one that broke him when it made $57 million when that was $57 million in the early 90s. And so he goes into one of those trailers, to meet with Steven Seagal, and he's on the set, and it's one of those big triple bangers where you go into this trailer and it's like you can get lost in there. It's a maze of pop-outs, It's like, which pop-out is Steven Seagal? And he's in the third bedroom to the left and the end of the
big star.
And he's waiting in there for 45 minutes. He's making him wait, sitting there by himself. Finally, Steven Seagal emerges from one of the other anterooms in the mobile home. And he comes out and he said, "I just read the greatest script I've ever read in my life." He goes, "Really? Who wrote it?" "I did." But I will say there's a newer one, and I think it's even superior. It's this has happened. I just heard that because I collect those stories like jewels. Anytime there's a Steven Seagal story, I love the Jamie Presley one. Was I'm an expert in shiatsu massage. Please let me massage you. You told me that one. And next thing you know, she's having her boobs grabbed on by him.
I'm an expert in
I'm an expert. Let me give you
Ew.
those.
I didn't hear that one. Yeah, but I didn't hear that story. I don't doubt it at all because I've heard a lot of really creepy shit when it comes to him and women actresses, but tells a coworker that he's an expert in shiatsu massage and then he grabs her tits. But that one story about, I just read the greatest script, I wrote it, I've heard that several times before.
Titties, baby. So anyway, he's doing a movie. He's doing a movie with Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Right.
And I did one, and that's where I heard Keenan tell me the story. I hope he doesn't mind me telling this story. But Steven Seagal had just met with the Dalai Lama. And apparently, if you give enough money to the Dalai Lama's charities, eventually you get something out of it.
Right.
And so the Dalai Lama made him a deity.
Wow.
A god. Some Tibetan Buddhist,
That must have really appealed to his ego.
Oh, yeah, no, it must have. No, so anyway, he comes to the set after he makes it to the Dalai Lama, and he comes, now he's a god. He comes to the set, now he was Steven Seagal, now Steven Seagal. Now he's Steven Seagal, the god, the deity from the Dalai Lama. And he comes to the set, and he's there, and Keenan says, "So what? I just met with the Dalai Lama, and he, in his wisdom, decided to make me a deity." And he gives the karang the ding da dong, whatever. And I feel a difference. I feel like an enlightenment, the sense of that I can do something now, and everything just seems to come into place for me spiritually and in my career, and I feel like it's certain things now that never made sense to me make sense to me on a universal level. And his assistant comes up to him and says, "Hey, Steven, your ex-wife called. You can't bring the kids over this weekend. You tell she doesn't get those kids over here. I'll break."
Oh my God. Oh shit. Now that is hilarious. He was granted deity status by the Dalai Lama. Apparently, if what Schneider was saying was that if you do something really wonderful or you donate enough time or money to the Buddhist causes or temples or whatever it is you do, of course you're going to reap some benefits. So whatever Seagal did, the Dalai Lama granted him deity status. So Schneider saw him like he was Steven Seagal. Now he's Steven Seagal wearing even more outlandish costumes as everyday clothes, walking around because he's Steven Seagal, the god now. And he's telling everybody, I'm so blessed and all of this awesome spiritual shit is and then he just fucking rags on this assistant out of nowhere. He's all enlightened and he feels like his whole life has changed spiritually and he's more in tune with nature and all this shit, and then it's, get the fuck away from me. Holy shit. Is this guy absolutely fake or what? I can't get over this Seagal shit. Every time there's a video like this, whether people are analyzing his fighting or mocking his weight or mocking the way he used to treat people on set, or cast members from the old SNL are bitching about what he did on the show, I'm there for it. I'm always there for some Steven Seagal shenanigans. I'm gonna let this last guy play. I think it's Don Cheadle, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna step away for a minute, but I'll leave it for you to listen to while I'm gone.
Deity.
I did a movie called Marked for Death with him. Okay. You know, it was about the Jamaican drug gangs, you know. And I was up for the role of this undercover Jamaican cop.
Oh, so you had the accent and everything.
And he was kicking all the American actors, black actors, out of their auditions because he said their accents were fake. So I decided to walk in as a Jamaican. So I walked in and I sat down and I said, Steven, you know, I have a really big problem with the way that black American actors portray Jamaican.
Damn! He can turn that shit up like that. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
And he said, so what's your problem? I said, Steven, I not lie to you, man. But, you know, in America, black people were given their freedom paternally by the white man. In Jamaica, we take it, man.
Yeah, that's dope. You got that one dead on the money. That's crazy.
So I kept it up. You know, he bought it, and I could see his jaw drop. Crazy. I could see he was starting to feed it. I was like, yeah, hit kid, tap it. He said, so can we shoot in Kingston? I was like, Steven, about a lie, your best movie that one day, man, really bad film, you know. Flick a good man. About a lie, your best movie, you take it down to Kingston, you short your time for free. All them rude boy be on your side, boss.
Yeah,
so care if you want for
yeah, you got
know?
this down back. It's scary.
So the moment of truth came, and he says, so are you born in Jamaica? And I looked deep in his bloodless eyes. And I said, Steven, a lot of vexation in our family, man. My mom, she married a guy, my granddad, him and I like it all, you know, though I was a bit of Rudy, him. So, you know, I can't go to Europe. You know, so I was born in Jamaica, but I moved to Brooklyn when I was 4, man. I can speak like Ras Clot American, but not choose it because I identify with my roots, man.
Yo, this is crazy. I'm just watching you work right now. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is what it is to just be an OG. And it's like, you can just turn this on. You know what I noticed too? That I feel like you've done so many things, but you can name the exact role you played. You can name the basis of the show. Like I keep hearing you refer to like these titles and these names. You remember all these things.
Well,
so
yeah, there was significant moments.
Yeah,
you know. But the thing about Seagal is, I kept it up for the whole film.
No way. The whole film.
Yeah, and you know, we'd be sit in the craft service line getting food, and he'd say, "So, brother, when we get to Jamaica, we're gonna go visit your grandfather." And I'm thinking, man, what this? My grandfather died in 1977. Oh, no, man. No, rascality afoot, man. Rascality afoot.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
People go really think you Jamaican.
Wow. That's a great
and
story.
On the last day of shooting, I told him that I was from New Jersey. I dropped all the accent. I said, Steven, I said, man, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm from Jersey.
Damn, I know his face.
He squinted his eyes. He turned on his heels. He walked away, and he never spoke to me again.
Yo, that's
That's deep,
wow.
though. That's deep. You got it. You got it. That's called great acting.
Yeah.
Damn. So there's the new bit. Steven Seagal with Mickey Mouse ears. Oh, I would love to. I've got to go into this. Sketchy things about Steven Seagal. Actors tell Steven Seagal stories, part 2. Okay, I've got to hear this. I just have to. We're on a roll here. Ew, this is 52 minutes long, though.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. But I want to wrap with talking about Steven Seagal.
Oh, yeah.
The notorious Steven Seagal.
Has it? I don't even know the name of it. I swear to God, this is true. Steven Seagal, for the last 20... Oh, thank you, Brian.
Oh, no problem, Howard. You got a game at all?
No, we're about to do Superfan Trivia.
Okay, but you should check out the visual on it. It's freaking hilarious.
I will.
All right, thanks, Howard.
What's up?
It's called Steven Seagal Lawman.
Yeah, Steven Seagal Lawman.
Oh,
I'm
the
one of the few
Lawman.
people who have actually seen this. It is just unbelievable. First of all, the whole premise of the show is, you know, I've always assumed that Steven Seagal was a bullshit artist, like that he never actually even studied martial arts. It turns out, I mean, I don't know what to make of this show, but they follow him around with a video camera. It turns out for the last 20 years, even while he had a film career, he's been a member of the Louisiana something.
Yeah, like New Orleans or something
Is
like
it
that.
New Orleans?
I think
Somewhere in Louisiana.
I think it's some little town,
It's some little shitty town made him a police officer. And evidently, he's
course
not just
he
like a
would.
police officer. He's almost in charge of all the cops.
Well, they said they originally, I think he was down there shooting a movie.
That's right.
And they brought him in to
I know
teach
everything about it.
the cops special techniques.
Yeah, he does some kind of weird Japanese karate.
Yeah.
Like it's not a keto, but it's like a kakayatata.
Right, I don't even know what his is called. I think he's the only one who does it.
It's for very fat guys who can barely lift their leg. But you know how he always in the movies does that weird shit with his hands and
Yes,
he's always
yeah.
subduing people and, well, so sure enough, Steven Seagal, who's now probably, I'd say, pushing 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And with jet black hair, he's dyeing his hair this weird color. He actually looks like Captain Jenks if he became the head of a police department. And he must be 200 or 300 pounds, and he's like a super cop. Not only do these guys worship him, but he even goes out to the firing range, and he's teaching guys how to shoot a gun.
Uh-huh.
And Steven Seagal shoots at a target. He puts a bullet through the guy's head, and then he goes, the real test is to take your gun and not aim it, but to push through it. And when you push through it, you should be able to shoot inside the same hole that you just shot.
He can't shoot worth a shit on his own movies. Have you ever seen this guy fire a gun in his movies? He doesn't even look. He just goes like this with his gun. Literally, actors who have never held a firearm could probably point and shoot with more precision than Seagal could. Anyway, this is old. I'm a Stern fan, so I've already watched this part. Oh yeah, all of these right-wing assholes are blaming the failure of Silicon Valley Bank on diversity. Just I mean, it's just bullshit. Anything to divert the problem. Yeah, no. It's that bank another bank that was going to go under. Well, the thing is, in a way they're getting a bailout, but Biden had stated that people that have legitimate deposits in with this bank, they are going to have their money protected. He wanted to protect their money. They came up with that decision in like 2 days. As far as investors go, who were using the bank to gamble and take risks, apparently their money is not going to be protected, or that's what I'm hearing, what Biden has been saying. They took the risks, they lost out, that's it. That's how capitalism works, and you're not getting your money back. You made a bad investment. That's how the cookie crumbles, so to speak. But I'm not 100% sure on that. This is just what I've been hearing. Time will tell. Not that much time, of course, but all of this, they're using diversity. They're trying to blame this horrible failure on diversity. That's what burns my ass. What I don't like. They are just trying to deflect the problem away from wealthy people mismanaging money to culture war talking points. They want you to forget about the extreme greed of the rich that don't know how to handle their money and blame everything instead on the fact that straight white men weren't at the helm of this bank. That if there were straight white men controlling everything, this would have never happened. But of course, this happened, and it's got to be because they had a woman in charge, or black people on the board, or whatever. And that's what I'm not liking. I'm tired of being an expert on train derailments. Now I'm going to be an expert on banks collapsing. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. 1776 to 1933. Major bank crisis every 10 years. 1930s, FDR bank rules enacted. 30s to the 80s, no major crisis. 1980s, rules are rolled back. 80s to 2010, major crisis every 10 years. 2010, Dodd-Frank rules enacted. 2010 to 2018, no major crisis. 2018, rules rolled back. 2023, another crisis.
Hey, why should I be on the internet?
Yeah, this is what happens when you deregulate, and that's the point. The rules have to be set, and they have to be made loud and clear. Because if you don't, people will get away with skeevy shit. People will go ahead and they will do skeevy shit. The people that do skeevy shit are people that want to do skeevy shit. You need regulation. A Texas-shaped chicky nugget. Only one of these groups has unlimited free speech around children. Hi. Yep. Board of directors on their way to cause the 2008 financial crisis. Women, non-whites, non-Christians. Huh. One black guy. Wall Street Journal. Is this why banks fail? Yeah, the Wall Street Journal was the first one to go for this shit. Try to deflect back to some culture war talking points about how diversity and women and non-whites working at this bank is the reason people use their money to make bad investments and it didn't go well for them, and now they want to be bailed out. Right here. Murdered by words. Good. SVB collapsed because it didn't have enough white people. Because in all the history of the United States, it is extremely rare for white men to oversee the collapse of a financial institution. Like virtually unheard of, right? You're missing the point, I believe. It's not that white men can't fail. It's that if your hiring process prioritizes something other than expertise, you're more likely to fail. Possibly that wasn't the case, but the almost perfect representation percentage is quite the coincidence. So do you have any evidence that SVB actually prioritized something other than expertise? Are you suggesting that your omniscience tells you there were more qualified white people who were passed over? This is their argument, and it's based on nothing. It is based on nothing based in fact. I am sick and tired of this white supremacist bullshit. Infinite socialism for the rich, bootstraps, rugged individualism, and blame for the poor. Ooh. I definitely need a desk. My shoulder is killing me. Aw, puppy in the bathwater. Lawyer on TikTok is performing weekly lists of arrested pedos in America simply to prove it's all youth pastors and politicians, not drag queens. So, Republicans have a problem with two adults marrying each other, but perfectly okay with some 50-year-old man marrying a 14-year-old girl. Republicans are some sick fucks, if you ask me. Yeah, they are. There's a reason that we have laws against pedophilia. There's a reason that those laws against pedophilia also involve young teens. There's a reason that the fact they are developing physically and are technically not children doesn't fucking matter. When you're under a certain age, you cannot make those decisions for yourself. I remember being a pubescent preteen, or being a teen, technically, 13, 14. I was quite precocious. I was very, very interested in experimenting sexually. Experimenting with myself, experimenting with others. I was pubescent. I was an adolescent. That is the normal, healthy age to begin having questions and wanting to explore your sexuality, getting to know yourself, getting to know what you're into. You should definitely know by that time whether you're straight or you're gay, or maybe for some adolescents they still don't know. One thing's for certain, there's still a lot to learn, and there's a lot you may not know. Being precocious as an adolescent doesn't mean it would have been okay for some 40-year-old dude to be hitting on me. I wouldn't have been able to handle that, to be quite honest. And there have been times where things have gotten real close to that. I'm not going to go into further detail. Suffice to say, I really was not ready for that type of shit back then. 13, 14 years old, of course I wasn't ready. Even if I was interested, even if I was eager in some ways, even if I had these fantasies of running away from home and actually believed that when a guy took interest in me, especially if he were older, even by just a few years, that was how things were supposed to work. I didn't understand a fucking thing. That's part of the reason we have laws against pedophilia. And when these right-wing jackasses try to make it legal, even if it's just in a couple of podunk states, that's all these predators need. Could you picture, it gives me the fucking creeps. Could you picture your child or your sibling, or maybe you, if you're young enough and you're watching this, some fucking creep you're like 13, you're 14, maybe you're having a lot of problems at home. You don't know yourself. You don't know what you want. All you know is that you're not happy. And here comes this older person or adult, a fucking adult. And when you're at that age, you really don't know yet. You may not even realize or have learned yet, because you've never been away from home, that not all adults, not all people have your best interest in mind. I was in my late teens before I got the idea that I am not always safe with an adult. Somebody being an adult doesn't mean they have my best interest in mind. It doesn't mean they're going to be mature or responsible or even that fucking bright. I could be in a horrible, dangerous situation with an adult. I could be in a situation where I'm being taken advantage of by that adult, because I'm still technically a child. I'm not a legal adult. There are some legal adults, people over 18, that still don't understand these things. It could take a while to get some experience and learn how people really are, how life really works. And I hear this shit about these creepy ass pedo Republicans that are trying to legalize child marriage. And could you imagine? I couldn't even imagine myself back at 13, 14 years old, the way I was, and some creepy ass adult is after me for one thing, and I'm under the impression at that age that every adult I encounter is going to have my best interest in mind. I'm just not going to know any better. It doesn't matter how much I hate mom and dad. It doesn't matter how much I talk about running away from home or how things aren't fair. That's part of the reason it's really, really important to raise your kids right, because they don't even realize what they don't know. And these fucking Republicans are going to make it legal now, not just for anybody to go after kids as young as 13, 14 years old, but anybody, any fucking adult, like it's the tribal region of Afghanistan, some disgusting, skeevy 50-year-old is going to be able to scout out 13, 14-year-old girls at a bowling alley somewhere, and these bad things that end up happening to children are going to happen again, and it's going to be completely fucking legal. And it's going to end up being legal. It's not just going to happen in their states. It's going to happen everywhere. I could picture falling for some bullshit from some 20, 30 something year old guy back when I was 13, 14 years old, saying that I don't ever have to be with my parents, and he'll totally take care of me and take care of everything, and I could totally run away and everything's gonna be cool. And by the way, you know, I think maybe I'd like to move out to Idaho. Maybe, you know, I'll meet you tonight and then we can take off, pack some of your stuff, I'll pack my stuff, and we'll take off to South Carolina or one of these states where marrying a child is legal. You understand? And that kid is never going to know they're being taken advantage of because Republicans are making that shit legal when they pass these draconian, backward fucking laws. They're all fucking disgusting, garbage people. Republican logic, can't have pedophiles if there's no such thing as pedophilia. Yeah, and we wouldn't have so many COVID cases if we stopped testing. That's the idea, maybe. Sadly, I see it working out well for them. Child brides and child labor, making America great again. That's some third world shit going on in America right now. America has always been a third world country to everyone but the rich. Especially if you're a person of color or native. The deeper we dive into this dystopia, the more traumatizing it'll be to dig ourselves back out again. My great-grandma got married at 16 and never wanted any woman in her family to ever marry young. Pain of childbirth when you are young is horrible. Girls are not fully matured sexually, even at that age. All the pedo pardons. They're making pedophilia legal. They're making grooming legal. As long as it's done by an old white man. Yes, we get the conspiracy to keep up a steady stream of workers that will die from horrible diseases. Crime spikes. Yes, we get it. Conservatives want live babies so they can train them to be dead soldiers. George Carlin. They want to bring back the good old Gilded Ages. Well, yeah. These comments suck. This is all shit everybody already knows. Or everybody should know. It's obvious. Fucking Republicans are just domestic terrorists straight out. They are fucking destroying this country. We went to visit our political prisoner Kyle Young today. We got turned away. They just canceled visits. We drove 12 and a half hours to come. This is devastating for our children. It's interesting to watch conservative white people find out that the government often imprisons people hours away from their family with absolutely zero consideration for the burden placed upon their children and loved ones. Aww. I don't want to hear about ramen noodles. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if Putin attacked during Trump's term and why he didn't. Trump said he might have let Russia take over parts of Ukraine. Fox News edited it out. That's what Russia secretly asked for in 2016.
A második félidő kezdőrúgását Varga.
Aww.
For the life of our nation! Life! For the liberty of our people! Liberty! For the victory of the American spirit!
Transphobic MAGA Nazis holding their victory or death sign to harass people outside of a drag show in Ohio. Of course, Ohio. You think this shit would ever happen in New York? Where I'm from? And I'm sure people have mentioned this before, but it's interesting to note how little right-wingers care for the inconvenience of wearing masks when it comes to their neo-Nazi protest rallies. Has anyone noticed that at all? After that tiki torch debacle? They all make sure to wear their masks. They all make sure to wear their sunglasses. They all make sure to wear their hats. Hell, why don't you just go all the way and buy a fucking morph suit? You know, like Spider-Man costume people wear. Of course, Reddit has to be such a piece of shit site right now. 2 days ago. 2 arrested. Well, that's good. Look at these pieces of shit.
Pedophiles, get the rope! Pedophiles, get the rope! Why more condition? Why more solution?
I'll be right back. You can enjoy the show.
Are you fucking serious? One guy. As we're escorting him, he attacks us.
All right, arrest that fucking guy with the mace.
Wait.
What just happened? The fucking guy with the baton that's been causing trouble all day on their side just maced everybody.
Y'all like to get physical, and the cops don't do shit about it. Here they are getting physical. I've been touched twice.
I like to press charges.
He's been touched
I want to
twice.
press charges.
But nobody
And that guy, this guy, hit us with names. I want to press charges against him. I want to press charges against him. There's no evidence whatsoever. Yes, I want to press charges against this guy. Yes, we always have. This guy right here in the armor, you got the wrong guy assaulted by his mate and his baton. I want to press charges against him. I want his information. I want to press charges against him. You all saw it. He hit me with his megaphone. Yep.
I want him arrested. I want him arrested, straight in the face of mace. Look at my eyes.
I want to press charges against this guy.
Who's the officer in charge? I want him arrested. He's in there like he's in a melee.
Hey, don't let him go!
Don't let him go! Don't let him go!
He's under arrest!
Why isn't they get touched on?
Why isn't he under arrest? Ron, I got mace in the eyes, buddy. I got mace in the eyes. I told you to stay away from Ron, don't you fucking idiot!
I want to press charges against him.
I want him arrested.
Go ahead, you take it over your gunfire.
Anybody touches me, I will defend myself. You hear me? Officer! Officer, do you hear me? Anybody touches me again, I will defend myself.
Why are you protecting that criminal? Everyone has said he's been assaulting them. Nobody's the only one that's going to use it, because he's a fucking dick. Look at how hard he's holding that baton. He can't wait to hit somebody with it.
We don't have ours.
Why don't you go fucking home, baton boy? Watch out, Mark. Try an actual medieval martial art, you fucking nerd. Shut up, you fucking idiot. Look at him, he's gonna hit somebody with that baton. I see it. Learn how to use that second left.
Walk, girls. Keep walking, guys. Let's go. Keep moving. Walk. I'm standing still. Walk, girls. Keep moving.
Protect the baton, boy.
Walk, girls.
He's the most protection.
Don't worry.
Keep it up. We're going to press charges.
Yeah.
Protect the man with the baton. He needs the most protection.
Assaulted my son. We're going to press charges.
You guys are all protecting that guy with the baton.
Calm down.
All we want's him. He's not a child. He's a criminal. We just want him.
None of you want shit, bro. Yeah, Y'all like to assault people.
We want the criminal with the baton.
I would love to fuck you up too, honey. Trust me. And I would. I would. Honey. I would.
Do it in front of the camera.
I would.
Do it in front of the camera.
Why? So you can try to get me some hate crime? When you just said you love to beat me up. What was that? What'd you say? What? So you can what?
Really,
So you can what?
really
So you can what? What do you want to do? So you can kill me?
pathetic.
Is that the fuck you just said? So you can kill me, bitch? So you can kill me? Go ahead, throw me again.
Oh, come on, Reddit. What the fuck?
18 plus gets rid of us. 18 plus gets rid of us. 18
Something went wrong.
18 plus gets rid of us. 18 plus gets rid of us.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
Shame on you. Irony is lost on these people. Projection is lost on these people. This is ridiculous and it's just starting. Ohio is literally a clown show. Considering how much damage one extremist can do, it's still very scary stuff. We've seen all too many examples of this already. Napoleon complex guy sprays mace and then hides behind the cops. Oh my God. This is so ridiculous. This comment section is filled with neo-Nazi sympathizers. I just can't stand it. I can't stand this shit at all. Pedos hiding behind gay rights. Yeah, we need to seriously do something. This shit is just all-out terrorism. It does nothing to help anybody. It does nothing to enrich anybody's lives. It does nothing to fulfill anything in anybody's lives unless the only sense of fulfillment you get is by spending time and money and energy just chastising and provoking and bullying and assaulting people. This shit is just fucked up, and all this right-wing neo-Nazi bullshit, it's just got to stop. Some serious new laws have to be enacted. Some serious new laws have to be put in place. This is sick. It's terrorism. It's doing nothing to unite the country. It's doing nothing to help anybody. It doesn't help children. It doesn't help tax-paying citizens. It doesn't help our society. It does nothing to address real problems that people face in our country. It's just divisiveness. It's ignorance. It's poor education. It's just mental illness. It's low IQ. It's all of that wrapped into one. Well, I'll be back in a bit. I just had to put that part out there.